Minister of Information, Rotimi Amechi, has accused President Muhammadu Buhari's Chief of Staff, Ibrahim Gambari, of interference with the procurement process in his ministry, the latest such skirmish between senior officials in the Buhari administration. The accusation was the minister's response to Mr. Gambari's apparent insistence on the adoption of an international competitive bidding exercise to engage contractors for the implementation of the International Cargo Tracking Notes Scheme, domiciled in the Nigerian Shippers Council under Mr. Amechi's supervision. A Premium Times investigation based on leaked confidential memos and interviews with sources showed how the president and the minister awarded the security-sensitive contract to two companies, MedTech Scientific Limited and Rosie International Limited, in ways that breached the procurement land and caused the Bureau of Public Procurement to complain about lack of due process. Mr. Amechi was able to circumvent due process and got Mr. Buhari to approve the contract, brushing aside BPP's advice that only a competitive bidding exercise was appropriate. BPP said the contracts were handpicked instead of a process that would have allowed interested companies locally and internationally to compete. Premium Times understands that Mr. Gambari, on the strength of a PBB's memo decrying the embarrassing process followed by Mr. Buhari and Mr. Amechi, had still been desirous of causing a reversal. In a memo dated October 14th and addressed to the president, Mr. Amechi said the chief of staff had consistently sought to impose his interest on issues relating to procurement processes in his ministry, making it official that he had evidence the chief of staff was not acting in the public interest but to benefit from the contract through process. Mr. Amechi told Mr. Buhari that Mr. Gambari's daughter, Bilkisu Gambari, approached him for the contract. You can imagine. You see what they are doing? I am particularly concerned that his opposition to my ministry's initiatives in respect of the ICTN scheme has increased in tempo after the visit of a certain Miss Bilikisu Gambari at his behest to my office with her partners to solicit for the award of this same ICTN contracts, which request was not granted. Mr. Amechi said in his letter to the president, "It would appear to me that it is the desire to satisfy multiple partners such as those referenced above that has led to the chief of staff's continued advocacy and advice that this sensitive contract is split into several tranches with multiple service providers, even against standard practice in several jurisdictions." He requested that Mr. Gambari refrain from interfering with the procurement process of his ministry and the agencies in the interest of service harmony. In the view of the foregoing, respectfully solicit Your Excellency intervention and directives in respect of the following matters. 1. The Chief of Staff should refrain from these multiple acts and interference in the procurement process in my ministry and the agencies in the interest of service harmony, and in order to ensure that Your Excellency, given the benefit of honest and objective advice devoid of personal interest at all times, especially in relation to matters affecting the Federal Ministry of Transportation, and that the procurement should, as earlier approved by Mr. Excellency, should continue and be concluded by the Federal Ministry of Transportation, Nigeria Shippers Council. Mr. Gambari did not honor a request for comment. A text to his phone was not replied. Mr. Amechi's letter was received at the office of the president on October 15, and subsequently the president noted and once again approved the continuation of the procurement process, which the BPP said was flawed. in a way that suggests humiliation. The president directed Mr. Gambari to reply to Mr. Amechi and assure him that Mr. Buhari had noted his complaints and approved that the procurement should continue. The reply memo reads, I write to forward reference aid to you to draw your kind attention to Mr. President's notation of your prayers in paragraph 5.1 referring Mr. Gabari and approval of 2 continuation of the project on page 2. Submitted for your kind action, please. The 2 contractors awarded the shipping tracking scheme contract have no record of work in the area. Medtech is a healthcare company and Rosie is a property development firm. BPP said Mr. Michi did not submit their profiles to enable the procurement agency to determine their competence. Paddy business. Now paddy they say they do for them. You can imagine what these guys are up to. Just imagine what they are up to. Giving themselves contracts. The question I'm always asking, with all of these things that these guys are doing, you are doing this, you are doing that, how has it affected the poor man, an average Nigerian on the streets? No, not them. That's why they go die for this one Nigeria. You know what they chop? Do you know what they are benefiting from this whole thing? And you want to come and say, they should divide one Nigeria. When these guys are eating, the billions that these guys are putting inside their pockets. And you want to tell us that they are feeling the impact. When even if a Naira goes to 2,000 Naira per dollar, you think it's going to affect them? With all this contract they are awarding to themselves, it's not going to affect them. So they don't even talk about it. That we don't have food in the country. You think that is their problem. They will just say, as many will go die, may they die, remain. They won't go die, may they die. That is the mindset that these people have. Corruption at its peak. Corruption at its peak. That is what has been happening. They want to eat this one now. Abba Gambari is angry because it's not being carried along in this big one, but he should wait. Corruption. They are all acting to protect their financial interests. None of them is sincere. Amici, Gambari, all na same na corruption. Gambari was right. Amici and Buhari were wrong. How will Nigeria develop when we keep doing things the wrong way? When we keep doing things with impunity? Gambari wants to be another Abakari. What is the business of Gambari in the contracts awarded by a minister in his ministry? Question. Jojo. So guys, that's what they have been rolling. Do you know a lot of secrets that they've been covering?